Many people would think you want to launch a company, go to the US. You went back to France to launch a startup, but you were in the US. So what do you think of this?
What's happening in France right now is amazing. What we see now is France being at the forefront of the AI revolution. We're hyper-focused on serving AI agents. We're the world's best search for AI agents.
Do you have a single agent that does the search? Do you have multiple agents? And how do you know that your agents retrieve the right information?
The most important thing in the company is how do we evaluate a model. The key things I think about right now is growth, product, and people.
This is probably the most complete LLM course I've seen so far, from beginner to advanced developer by Towards AI. It's basically a one-stop conversion for anyone who wants to become an LLM developer, and the course has over 90 lessons to go from beginner to advanced in the field. It's both very practical and industry focused, but also quite technical, and you will cover a lot of technical topics like RAG, fine-tuning, agents, audio, and caching. So if you're interested, check out the link in the description, and don't forget to use the code AIStories10 to get a 10% discount. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AI Stories podcast. I'm Leiser. I'm a senior data scientist at Artifact, and I will be your host. So today we've got Phil Mizrahi, which is the CEO and co-founder of Linkup, a startup developing some of the best search agents. They actually recently achieved state-of-the-art results on OpenAI SimpleQA dataset, achieving 91% accuracy and beating some well-known competitors like Perplexity or even OpenAI itself. So today we're going to talk about Linkup, about agents, about search, and if you enjoy our conversation, please subscribe to the AI Stories YouTube channel, comment, share, and leave a 5-star review. All right, let's start now. Hi Phil, very happy to have you here on the show. Before we dive into agents and Linkup and search, can you first introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Neil. Very happy to be here. So I'm French. I went to engineering school in France and then moved to the US, where I studied machine learning. I was about to become an AI researcher, like actually some of my friends from undergrad, and essentially decided to go work at Lyft. It's a ride-sharing company in the US, competitor to Uber. Where I worked on a couple of different teams, working on search and then working on autonomous cars, and then went back to France to create Linkup, which is the world's best search for AIs. And so, yeah, excited to be here.
Great. So going back a bit, when did you get into this world of AI and machine learning? You said you were about to become a researcher. So how did you get interested in this field?
Yeah, I think it really started at Polytechnique, where I got my first classes in computer science. And after that, moving to the US, I did a master's in machine learning. So I took a lot of classes around deep learning. And at the time, what the hot thing was computer vision. So like CNNs and stuff like that was really the hot thing. And I guess like natural language processing was, at a turning point where you could see some stuff coming in, and you also had some very cool stuff going on in the reinforcement learning side of things, where I remember we're doing like some sort of like a class project on AlphaZero, and it was very like super cool at the time. And I took a PhD class in reinforcement learning where we would do some very cool stuff, and I wanted to do that as a researcher. But then I actually got an internship as a product manager at Lyft, which is completely different, obviously. But I love doing many different things, and as a PM, you get to do so many different things. And I realized that actually, as a person, it's something that fits me better than the life of a researcher, where you get super deep into one direction. So kind of like important choices in my life where I decided to, okay, it's fine to stop being extremely technical, which is something you give up kind of thing. Like it's not easy to go back to being technical, at least at that level of depth, I would say. And but I decided to go there, work at Lyft, and I don't. I mean, it's not something I regret. So it was a very hard startup. You get to work on very cool stuff. Like this is the first time I got to be introduced to search. My first team was the data platform team, where my team and I built Amundsen. It's a internal tool where data scientists and engineers get to search the data they have available in the company. And so I think it's really what's like looking back, it's something that I guess like puts the seeds in me for Linkup. And so I guess I'm very happy that I made that choice at the time.
So what was that first search tool that you've built? Can you give a bit more details? Like, why did you start the project? What was the issue before? Why did you need this tool? And then how did engineers use that tool to make their life easier?
Yeah. So essentially, like in a company like Lyft at the time, you had high growth, lots of people that want to be data oriented and want to like make decision based on data. And so everybody was using data, but the data is like tables where you don't really know what's in the table. You don't really know how to use the table. And you had lots of people that had knowledge in the head, like tribal knowledge, but not easily shared, right? Because like some people are getting a lot of questions. And so what we wanted to do is essentially make it super easy for anyone to know how to use the data, what the data means, and to essentially be able to run their own analysis without having to ask questions to like the old guy, like the guy who's been in the company for like 2 years. And so it was very easy. It's a search bar, sort of like Google, where you essentially type what you're looking for, and maybe you want to do like an analysis on why the rate of rides that were canceled got up in the past few weeks in Seattle. And so you type that, and you essentially get all the tables that could be relevant to your analysis. And so you get on the table page, and then you get some sort of like information on the table, what it means, and how it's been used. So you get links to some dashboards and reports analysis that has been done in the past, so you can know how to use that in your future analysis for yourself.
Okay, super.
This was before Gen AI. So all of that was done with very different tech that would be used today if we had to do it again. But still was super helpful.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think it's something that all companies need. I mean, I work in AI and consulting, and I can see that many of my clients would need something like you've got, because, as you said, many people have the knowledge in their head. And when you're looking for a particular data set or even column descriptions or whatever, it's not there. You need to find the right person, and sometimes they forgot or sometimes they don't know. So that could even be a startup idea, like doing that for multiple
Actually,
companies.
as an anecdote, like I have some friends of mine who went on to create a startup based on that. My old boss from Lyft also did a startup based on that. And so it was a great startup idea. I think that now with a new tech that was recently created, you could probably do something that's much better. So maybe like a Gen 2 kind of thing could be a good idea. Also, like the product we built is open source. So if you want to like adapt it to your use case and use it for your own business, that's something that you should definitely try doing.
And then you said the methodology you used in the past is very different from what we'll do now with Gen AI. Yeah, how did you do it then back then without Gen AI?
So essentially, like, one thing that was very tough at the time is how do you create user readable descriptions of the content? How do you explain stuff to people? At the time, the only kind of like way we could do that was to ask people to generate content and pretty much like explain what's in a table, explain the definition of a field.
Mm-hmm.
And today you could do that automatically. You could essentially look at the ETLs, look at where the data comes from, and so on, and do that purely automatically. At least do a first pass automatically. And so this would be done very differently, for example.
Okay, so very time consuming at the time, I guess.
Yeah, it is an issue, right? Because if nobody commits to doing that, and it's a pain, and it's not a fun job to do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But if nobody does it, then like it's nobody going to do it for you. But now we have AIs doing that for us.
And so then on the impact, so you develop this tool, you deploy it, and people start using it. Do you have a way to quantify the impact that it has and the value that it gets? Should be quite difficult.
You know, like 100%, like measuring the value of a tool that is supposed to make you more efficient is always kind of tough. But you know what made me happy is that sometimes the product was down
Mm-hmm.
because that happens. Um, and this is what made me. It was almost the moment where I was most happy because I would see on Slack people complaining like, "Oh, I mean, since down, like I can't do my job anymore," and I was like secretly pretty happy about that.
Okay, so it was a good sign that the tool was frequently used and quite useful.
Yeah.
So this is when you get into search. So this is your first experience with search, but then you have a few experiences at Lyft and you decide to build Linkup. So when and how did you decide to build Linkup and why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I came back to France. I knew I wanted to build a company in AI. I had like this experience in search that was super interesting to me, and I think the kind of like the spark was the observation of the deals being made between companies like OpenAI and companies on the content side, like publishers. So, for example, in France, the newspaper Le Monde or Financial Times in the UK. So this was like the first time where you had AI companies paying content companies to access like content they really needed access to. And so for me that was super interesting. And you know, like at Lyft I also worked on like networks and autonomous networks. And so for me, like kind of this whole thing started putting itself together. We had like autonomous networks, search aspects, and so I really felt there was something there. Initially, what we wanted to do with my co-founders was something along the lines of like, okay, these big companies are doing deals for selling content, accessing content. How do we do that at scale? And so we wanted so that like any small startup in the AI side would be able to access high quality content legally, efficiently, like OpenAI does. And on the other hand, like any independent content creator,
Mhm.
like you, for example, like would be able to distribute their content in the AI world and be compensated for that, like Le Monde is. That was the initial idea, and I think that when we start digging into this, like the search aspect became critical, and
Mhm.
realized that actually, if you want to do that, you need to build in the search layer as well. Um, and so this is how Linkup came to be. Like we were like we wanted to build this layer that connects AI to content, does this in a very efficient way, does this in a way that is sort of like preparing the business model of the future of internet. Because, and I guess we'll talk about this more, but um, ads is not going to work anymore in a world of AI agents, or at least not the same way it's been done so far. Um, and we also wanted to do something that is extremely efficient, extremely powerful, and this is kind of like why we built Linkup. In a way, like at the time, we're thinking about Spotify versus Pirate Bay. You know, like our CTO worked at Spotify for 6 years, and so we were always using this image of okay, um, AI and content is stuck at the Pirate Bay age, where we always go to Pirate Bay to like download illegally files, and the quality was shitty, the experience was shitty. But it was kind of like the only way to do that, because at the time you didn't have any other sort of way to download videos and music. And now we have Spotify, and I pay Spotify. I mean, I'm a proud user of Spotify, but I don't pay Spotify because it's legal and compensating artists. I pay Spotify because it's a great experience. I have like all the music I want. I have the music I want in like super high quality, like super high, like super low latency, and so that's what we wanted to build. We wanted to like essentially bring in the AI world and the content world together, and build a product that was so powerful and so great that people would use it. And because of the value we would create, we would essentially enable um, a new business model for content, where all people, all publishers, all content creators would be fairly compensated for the work they do, which I think you could agree with me that it's something that is super important as we think about the business model of the future of the internet.
And so concretely, like how can I use your tool today? Is it like I type in a question, it searches on the internet and gives me back a few links with answers? Like, what can I use today? What can I do today? And what's your long-term vision?
Yeah, well, right now it's so the product is built for AI agents.
Okay.
So um, think of our product as sort of like Perplexity for AI agents. So all of our users are AI applications, AI agents of some sorts. They essentially use an LLM that is kind of like the brain of the application. And the all these LLMs, like the Meta one, the OpenAI one, like all these LLM, they're like super smart, extremely smart, super knowledgeable, but they all have like a cutoff date. So this cutoff date is like the end of the training period
Mm-hmm.
of the LLM, and they know a ton of stuff about like what happened before that,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know anything about what happened after that. And sometimes like these cutoff dates can be pretty long, like a year even, 6 months, 8 months. And so if I ask a simple question about something that happened 2 months ago to Llama, it's not able to answer, even though it was trained using billions, like millions, and like a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're just doing research, that's like maybe you don't care about that. But if you're building like a business application, like if you're building an agent that is doing something in the real world, that is super limiting. And so like what we're doing is essentially like enriching these AI agents, enriching these LLMs, and enabling them to answer questions about stuff that happened even like a minute ago.
Okay, I see.
And so like the way you would use our product is, let's say you're building an AI agent, you're building an application, and you want to have better answers. You want to have like increased precision, increased accuracy on the answers of your AI application because it's important to you. Then maybe you're using LangChain, maybe you're using Crew AI, maybe using a framework like that. You can natively plug your LLM to Linkup, so that whenever it needs to, ground its answer or ground its output on actual facts, it will call Linkup, get the facts, and then create like this much richer, much more accurate answer. So right now, very concretely, it's an API that can be plugged into your LLM. You essentially fuel a prompt to the API, and then we get you back some high quality, clean and fresh and up to date content that you can use as grounding data to your LLM. So it's not it doesn't have a UI. It's not like Perplexity where you can
Mm-hmm.
have like this very nice product. We're like hyper focused on serving AI agents, which is also the reason why we can be better at this very specific thing, right? Like we're the world's best search for AI agent. We have like, as you mentioned, like the best result in the world at OpenAI SimpleQA benchmark, which I think the team is doing an awesome job, and it's super impressive to me. I wasn't even expecting us to be able to do that. So I'm super proud of what the team's achieved so far. But the reason we're able to do that is like we're extremely focused on one thing. And like I don't want to say we beat Perplexity or we beat OpenAI. That's not the point. Like they do something different. They're like a B2C product, where like they're like a B2C chatbot, and we're like the world's best search for AI agents.
So if I summarize things, is Linkup like an agent tool, a super tool, like an agent tool that LLMs will call, and your goal is that whenever an LLM needs to do a web search, they would use Linkup rather than something else.
Exactly. I think that's a great summary of everything, and I think the word tool is actually important. Because it's like exactly what we are, and like without getting too technical, because I don't think that's the point. Like the LLMs see us as a tool. They do function calling. That's the way they call Linkup. And so we're like a tool, like in the toolbox, like you can use like in the different frameworks, like the Hugging Face small agent, for example. Like that's the way we've been exposing our product to LLMs.
Okay, and so your goal is to partner with CrewAI, LangChain, Pydantic AI, so that whenever they need to do a web search, they will call Linkup.
So all these guys, like you mentioned, they build frameworks for other people to build AI apps. So we have native integrations with them. We have, like all of them, like Llama Index as well. Like we have like an MCP connector as well. Like it's, and so what we want to do is we want to make it as easy as possible for anyone building AI apps to use Linkup, and so that's the goal. Like if we make it easy, if the quality is high, if the performance high, if the latency is low, that's how we win essentially.
And so how does it work? Do you have a single agent that does the search? Do you have multiple agents that do different things? And how do you know that your agents retrieve the right information?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where we start getting into like some of the secret sauce. But I'll share a bit of how we do that. At a high level, the way our product is designed is we take the query, and then we have this proprietary model that we've built. We've actually adapted from an open source model, and it's extremely good at essentially using some of the tools we have internally. And so the tools we have internally are like available to this agent to use to get the data that our user needs.
Okay.
And so to give you an example of like some of the tools we have, obviously we have like databases we have internally. Like we have an internal index that like we grow and enrich through time. We have a lot of connection with different APIs. Some of them are open APIs, like open source APIs. Some of them are like actually proprietary APIs where we have deals with the data providers. For example, like one example of that is Google Maps. We have an integration with the Google Maps API because sometimes we get queries where it's important, like a geographical aspect is important. And so we need Google Maps. We have also integration with like web browsing systems where we can, like if we really don't know where the content is, we'll just go on the open web and like search for stuff. And so this agent is extremely good at using all these different tools. It's going to do that in a like super precise way, in super optimal way, and super quickly. It's going to use the tools. And then it's going to get back some information, and then we have like a whole like post-processing system, and essentially like we are going to return the information in a cleaned up, tested like way to the AI agent that made the query. We have two flavors of the model. One that is faster, that just like returns information super quickly. And another one that is kind of like more comprehensive, that has some sort of like reasoning aspect to it, where if a search is in the right direction, but is not complete yet, because some maybe like a search is actually has like nuances and subtleties, and so it's going to essentially recursively continue the search on the information that is missing. And so the way we do that is like we make a vector difference between the question that I ask and the answers we've been able to retrieve so far. And we keep going, keep searching on this vector difference. And through that, we're able to get super comprehensive responses to even like the most complex questions. And this is pretty much how the product works.
Okay, so one like standard agent that retrieves the information, and a deeper agent that keeps searching for information until it's kind of satisfied. So like several iterations of the standard agent.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really like a bit more nuanced than iterations,
Yeah.
but it's pretty much that. Essentially, like it keeps going until it's found the information you need.
And so we mentioned that you achieved 91% on the sample accuracy on the SimpleQA dataset. How do you evaluate your models? Because you've got all those tools, all this information. So how do you internally test your model to make sure it retrieves the right information?
Yeah, well, it's and just like a quick precision, like it's so you have the measure we had on SimpleQA is 91%.0. It's actually F score.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The accuracy is slightly higher even.
Okay.
It's a nuance, like it's not super important. But yeah, like the most important thing here, like we are better than anyone else. But yeah, to your question on like the evaluation, essentially it's something we take extremely important, extremely carefully. Like this is almost like the most important thing in the company is how do we evaluate a model. And so we have essentially a few different systems that we use internally. Without going into too many details, we have obviously like we've talked about SimpleQA. It's one evaluation of our system. It's not the one we like because actually SimpleQA has a lot of issues, and we'll share a bit more about that. Like I don't want to tease anyone, but essentially we'll do some sort of comment on like what we found in SimpleQA and how SimpleQA can be improved. The TLDR is like we're looking at where we got it wrong in SimpleQA, like where the model answers some answer that was not the same as what we had like in SimpleQA, and we were digging into this and realized that actually our model was right. I mean, obviously, for other questions, like it was wrong. Like it happens sometimes to get it wrong. But in some of his answers were like the model was right, and so we're digging deeper and deeper and realized that it actually happened for quite some of the questions for SimpleQA, and so we're going to try to do another data set that is a bit more a bit stronger, I would say. But anyway, so SimpleQA is one. The other one that is obviously important is we have this internal regression data set where we look at some of the critical, most important questions that are super often used by some of our most important customers. And so whenever we push a new version of the model, we want to make sure we don't degrade the existing use cases that are currently in production for our users. We also have a North Star QA dataset that we use internally that is, like what we want to be good at. And so think about the regression QA as like almost like a constraint in the optimization function. When the North Star QA is more like the optimization function, where like we want to push a model to production if it's better than the older version at our North Star dataset. And it's sort of like the use cases we have today in production, plus the use cases that we want to, like from a strategic and growth standpoint, we want to improve on because we want to capture these use cases as we grow as a company. Obviously, like this is just like the tip of the iceberg. We also have like many different like more nuanced approaches to evaluation, but we also are trying out some pretty cool stuff that I realize now that I cannot share because it's work in process, but maybe if we do another of these podcasts, maybe next time we'll be able to share on like pretty cool project that we're working on the evaluation side of things.
No, thanks. I think it's already interesting. Like this, I like this idea of like this North Star QA, but also some like super important question that you must get right. And I think that could be a good way for listeners who build AI systems and want to evaluate their LLMs, like having a few like constraints, like questions that you must answer, you must get right, and then like a North Star data set that you must also perform well on. So I think I really like this idea. Never tried it on.
Yeah. I think one thing to add, like to that, is like it's great to evaluate stuff from like automatically.
Mhm.
But one thing we do as a team, like every week, is we take a full hour together and we look at like actual question and answers, because I think nothing beats sort of like nothing will ever replace sort of this human touch of going deep and actually like um, understanding the questions, understanding the answers, and spending some like human brain juice essentially
Mhm.
on that, and creating some empathy to the questions we get to our system, and making sure that we are like like not missing anything. So we do that every week. We take this super seriously, and it's kind of like very complementary to the like automated evaluations we do.
Okay. And the automated evaluation is with LLMs, like you give it the ground truth answer, you give it your answer, and you use an LLM to compare both.
Yeah, we use like LLMs as a judge pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for some of these data sets, we there's some cases where we don't use that because it has some limits. But essentially, we use LLM as a judge like very often.
So OpenAI like recently released Operator, which is also a search tool. So where do you see Linkup in the search space? You're building search for agents, which is a bit different. So yeah, where do you see
Yeah.
yourself?
Well, we really see like like all this generation of agents. There's going to be different flavors of these agents, um, and we see ourselves as a tool for these agents. And that also works with Operator, actually. I mean, OpenAI, they do everything like themselves, right? Like, so it's like Apple at the time, where like they're going to do everything in house. So I don't think that's our ICP or like a business goal to work with them. But anyway, like for example, like something closer to us, like H company,
Mm-hmm.
building something similar to that. Like think about what they build as an AI that is going to like go on the web, do stuff, like take control of your laptop and so on. Um, it will have such needs, because if it needs to have a better informed decision made, then it will need to get the information it needs to ground its decision. And the most optimal way to do that is not to manually like take control of the screen, go on Google,
Mm-hmm.
type something in the Google bar, look at the 10 different like the first 10 results, click on the first one, go on the like go scrape the page, ingest the page, go on the second page, and do the same, and maybe like do that with like a few different Google searches, and then take a decision. Sometimes it's great as an agent. Sometimes it's great and super useful to like take control of the screen and do stuff like one by one. But sometimes you just need to get an answer blazing fast, and this is where we play essentially.
So the operator is more like it's built also for humans, right? Like humans can stop the agents, take control of the screen. So you're really like your focus is really agents only, and so you don't need all this kind of also interpretability where humans they want to understand. Okay, what is the agent doing? Okay, now they're at the payment phase. Okay, now they want to book this. You don't need all this interpretability stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we're super focused on one thing, which is serving AI agents,
Hmm.
and so it actually simplifies. To your point, it actually simplifies the problem, which is why we can be like so good, even as a small team. And so far, like, it's been our only focus. I think that as a startup, you need to be focused on some simple stuff to be able to succeed.
On the interpretability side of things, do you give some interpretability? So you give an answer, do you give some links or some hints to the LLM on how you found that answer?
Yeah, so what we do give is essentially we always give links. We're like extremely good at making sure we don't hallucinate,
Okay.
because it's essentially like the most important thing for us is to create trust. Like, we want business to be built on what we give. We want people to be able to trust us, to rely on the answers we give, and so we take this extremely seriously. And so that's why we're extremely good at that. And yeah, like, we give links for any response. Actually, in the API, you can decide if you get the raw content with the links, with an like a AI generated answer,
Okay.
sort of like Perplexity, or if you just get the raw content and the links, which is actually like what AI agents need, right? Like, and this is like one of the differences with Perplexity is like Perplexity will always give you AI generated answer for humans, but us, like, what we see is like what AI agents need. They don't need an AI to like feed them some AI generated stuff so that they can use it. Like, they are like, what they want is like the raw content. And so our responsibility is to make sure that this content is high quality, can be trusted from like the best sources we do partnerships with, and in the right format, like easily digestible for AI agents, and always linked to the sources, so that in any case they can always go and check our output essentially.
Okay, great. Super cool. So I'm a user and I'm building an AI app and I want to use Linkup. What should I do then?
So you can go on linkup.so. This is a website, and this is where you get all the information on the product, and you can easily create an account. You will get some free credits as you sign up, and so you can start building with our product, do some testing. Typically, what we've seen is that people usually start with one use case. Like, they have one use case in mind, and so it's great to be focused on this use case. And then if it works well, then you can move on, expand your horizon, and give your AI agents like some more flexibility, and like test out some stuff. But yeah, like, you can, like, the products here, like, please give us feedback. Would love to talk to anyone who's building with Linkup. I think that we're like super amazed to see all the different use cases that people build with Linkup. Some of them we kind of like saw coming before building the company, but some of them we actually were pretty impressed and pretty excited and curious to see all the cool stuff that people built with Linkup. And so yeah, please reach out if you have questions as you guys start building.
What's like one impressive use case that you've seen using Linkup?
Yeah, I mean, impressive. I don't know if impressive is the right word, but kind of like like, most of our clients are building like serious stuff. Like, they're building applications, business applications. So um, I don't want to say like impressive, but I think definitely like stuff we didn't think about. And so like obviously, like, we see a lot of people building sales agents, all the way from preparing sales pitches ahead of sales call, to like automated outbound emails, to like automated prospect selections and stuff like that. So all their serious. One thing we didn't see coming is one company that we work with, Fleet. They are essentially like, they manage. So they're like an IT management system where essentially they lease some laptops and phones and stuff. And so what they built is they built a chatbot, a support chatbot, so that anyone can ask questions, like, why is my phone not working anymore? And they use one of these LLMs, but obviously, like, the LLM is not aware of like the latest issues that the last generation of iPhone has, because of the same issue we're discussing, this cutoff date, where like the agents don't know anything after this cutoff date. And so with Linkup, they essentially get the information they need from the support pages from Apple, from Lenovo, etc., and also from the different forums where people discuss this sometimes issue they have. And so if like a new bug arises, the agent will be aware of that through Linkup. And so this use case, this kind of like support agent use case, we didn't really think about, but actually seeing fleet building on Linkup and like actually solving real people problems, I think it was super cool for us to see that.
And so who are who are your like main customers? Is it businesses? Is it agents, frameworks like CrewAI? Or is it even, because you said I could go create an account and use Linkup, so who are you targeting? Because I thought you were more of a B2B company, but like users, are you also kind of a bit B2C or not at all?
So you know, like what we see is we build stuff for agents, right? So anyone building agents can use us, and we see different types of people building agents. We see big companies, you know, like big tech companies. We've seen a lot because essentially, like, you know, they have like engineers, they have money, they're able to like quickly get started and build AI agents. We've seen also like startups, like AI startups. They're like sort of like AI native startups with that started with building AI agents. And they're like super nimble. Maybe they don't have like the resources, but at least they move super fast. We've also seen like independent developers playing around with AI agents, and so these guys, they're, you know, like maybe they have a day job, but they're also super passionate about building AI agents. And we take also this super seriously, right? Because maybe they are the type of people that will like build with Linkup during the weekend, and then on Monday they go back to work and they're engineers in a tech company, and they're like, okay guys, like I found the missing piece in our puzzle, where like by using Linkup we'll be able to essentially build this use case that we've been thinking about. When it comes to like LangChain, CrewAI, and all these frameworks, they're not our customers.
Okay.
They're our partners. We essentially built native integrations with them, so that anyone building with CrewAI, building with LangChain, will be able to very easily plug in Linkup with like as seamlessly as possible, essentially.
Okay, super clear, 100% clear now. Want to ask a few questions on you more and your role as a CEO. Something you said at the very beginning of this episode is you went back to France to launch a startup, but you were in the US. So what do you think of this? Many people would think, well, you want to launch a company, go to the US. Europe might not be the place to do it. So what's your take on that?
So I think a few things. Like first, like what's happening in France right now is amazing. I think that 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it would have been very different. But what we see now is we see France being at the forefront of the AI revolution, and we see a lot of very, very, very strong talent in France. Obviously, you have Mistral, you have a lot of other companies, you know, the Fair people, or the Llama people, you know, like they're all French guys. So, I mean, obviously, you have other like places with a lot of talent. You have lots of very smart people in China, lots of very smart people in SF. But we're at a place and a moment in time where you can build the best AI companies from France. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that actually, like a lot of our clients are in the US, and so we, you know, like we stay close to them. We like have our go-to-market strategy that is very much oriented towards the US, and I am, you know, like I have to go there pretty often to see clients and stuff, and so like we are from an engineering and development standpoint, we're like very much based in France so far. I think it was a great place to actually. I think actually like France is not a bad place to create startups. Maybe this is a hot take, and people will disagree, but I do think that it's actually a nice place to create startups. And but as we think about growth and everything about go to market, like I'm very much like still well connected to my friends in the US. Like San Francisco is a very familiar place to me, and I love going there. I and so like for the next stages of growth, like the US will be super important to us.
And so, what are your key challenges now as a CEO? What's on your mind? What's on your mind today? What are the problems you need to solve?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the key things I think about right now is growth, product, and people. And so on the growth side, like we had like amazing growth so far. I think it's way better than our expectations. And so the game now is how do we keep that going? Like growth rate is what we have a growth target in mind. Um, and like as the company gets bigger, like we want to keep that going at the same rate. On the product and tech side, I mean, as I mentioned, like I wasn't expecting our tech to be as good as it is, and so this is awesome. But it's a race, and like we should not just like sit back and relax just because we've been extremely good so far. We need to keep pushing. We need to keep developing the tech. We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of projects in the pipeline. And like I come from a product management background, so I love just going deep in the product. I love thinking about what are the problems we need to solve, and I love thinking, like brainstorming with machine learning engineers, with engineers, thinking about how we can make the product better. Um, the last piece is on the people side, like right now, like obviously, like we had pretty, yeah, we have like some pretty smart people joining the team. We want to make sure that we keep executing with the same momentum with a team that is bigger than when you were like a super small team. And so that's the other challenge for me, is like making sure that everybody is like we're creating this right place. We're creating this like best place to work with like some like a super strong team spirit, where like we all aligned, all working in the same direction, all towards the same goal essentially. So essentially, yeah, that's like the things on my mind right now.
Okay, okay. So those are your key challenges. Planning on growing fast and yeah, keep getting better because it's yeah, things never stop.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a race, and honestly, like it's a crazy race. Like I mean, you've been obviously like following AI super
Mhm.
closely. Like building a startup is tough. It's amazing, but it's tough. Building a startup in AI is like just add like 10 layers of craziness, and you got building a startup in AI. Like it's always changing as an environment. It's moving extremely fast. You have innovation everywhere. You have radical technological changes happening like every week.
Mhm.
um, and it's making things like even more exciting, but also like, like harder to predict. You need to like be very thoughtful in the way you think about your strategy, in the way you think about the future. And so yeah, it's extremely fun, but also a bit like demanding, I would say.
And so, have you ever? I mean, you said you didn't regret it, not doing a PhD and going deep technically, but now as a CEO of a like quite a technical company, do you feel you're lacking something? I'm asking this because I'm also now quite technical, like coding algorithms and things like that, and I'm ever wondering if I go more on the product side or more on the management side, I will learn some soft skills, but I will miss like the deep technical things that I really enjoy. So yeah, did
Yeah,
you feel this was lacking, or do you think it was the right choice for you?
like at some point in your life, you need to close doors. And so you need to accept that you're losing something because you're going to gain something else. Um, and for me, like like I start my day, I look at data, I try to like see how our users are doing. I talk to our users, I talk to our engineers, I talk to our content partners. I do so many different things during the day. And like I love the tech that we're building. I love AI. I spend a lot of time talking and like brainstorming and whiteboarding with AI engineers in the team, and I think that kind of like scratches my itch of like tech stuff. I think I'm very good at understanding stuff. I'm pretty good at like creating mental models, um, and um, and so as long as I'm able to do that, I think I'll be fine. And I have like, I mean, I have like a master's in machine learning, and I have like a bachelor's in applied math. So I have like this pretty strong technical background that is helping me a ton. Sometimes I do stuff that I don't understand, and actually that makes me happy because they explain it to me, and then I learn something, and it's great. I love it. Um, I'm happy to be not in the driver's seat anymore on the ML side of things. I think that my role is not that anymore. It's more of a like how do we drive a vision? How do we align everyone, and how do we make sure that we work on the right problems? And this I love because essentially like I think that the most important thing in life beyond like your job actually is how do we focus on the right problems. Um, by the way, like I think this is something that on the political side in France and in the US as well, actually, um, we should think about a bit more. Like stop thinking about solutions, start thinking about problems. Um, but yeah, like I think this is like it's something that I enjoy a ton doing in the company, and yeah, I love that my role is mostly doing that.
So just a few career questions before we finish this episode. The show is called AI Stories. So can you just share a story about yourself? It can be anything, a mistake you've made, something funny, something you've learned, just one story.
And it has to be an AI, right?
No, it can be anything.
I can share. I can share a story. Nothing to do with AI. So as some of you guys may know, like at Polytechnic, we start with 1 year in the military. I went to the Air Force. I always love flying. I have my private pilot license, and I had the extreme luck to fly in a fighter jet. So I went to like an Air Force base, and I was flying. I got in a fighter jet for like a training session, and it's very embarrassing. But essentially, when you when you're in this like seats where like it's a ejection seat, you have to be extremely well strapped because otherwise, like if you eject, essentially your backbone just like breaks if you're not like super straight and stuff. And so you have this kind of thing you have to do where you like strap yourself before you start and go on and do the flight. And as I was doing this, I wanted to like lean forward, and to do that, I just grabbed something in front of me and pulled on it. And like as I was pulling on it, I realized that this was actually the ejection
Whoa.
lever. And so I was just about to like stupidly eject myself in the wrong position, like just before taking off. And you're like, obviously, like you have to pull pretty strongly with pretty high force, and I didn't get to that level, and I didn't die.
Whoa.
um, but I was thinking back to that moment. I was like, okay, like I was extremely close to doing something like extremely stupid, and like sometimes I reflect on that. I'm like, okay, like maybe in life, just need to make sure that you stay on the right side of like not doing something extremely stupid.
Yeah, I mean that you didn't do it on purpose. We all make mistakes, but this one could have been a costly one.
But yeah, exactly. Like sometimes the difference between like a mistake that has extremely high cost and just like nothing, where like nobody knew about that. I mean, I'm telling you guys now because it's been like a few years, but at the time I didn't tell anyone. Like I was extremely like ashamed of what I almost did. But yeah, just like in life, try to like stay on the right side of like not doing something extremely stupid.
And if you had one advice for people to progress in their career, what would it be? Just one advice.
What I said earlier is probably like the most important thing for me is like try not to focus on solutions, focus on problems, focus on the problems you like, focus on the problems that like are super important to the world and to you especially. And if you become like the most obsessed person on this problem, you'll probably pretty soon become like the most knowledgeable and the most capable person on the problem as well, and the solutions will come pretty easily. If like the problem is like nuclear fusion, the solution might not come that easily. But I think you get my point. Like, just try to like spend a bit more time than you think is necessary on the problem side of things.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Like, be passionate about the problem. Some people want to use cool solutions, like, oh, I'm going to use this cool agent or this cool deep learning algorithm. But actually, if you're not solving a real problem, that doesn't matter. And if a very simple algorithm can do the job, like, it doesn't matter that you're using something fancy. So fall in love with the problem rather than the solution. That's a very good point.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you have one book or one resource that you would recommend me to read on anything, something that's...
Like for me, books is really something where like it's for me that my moment to escape. So I read like just mostly fiction, novels, like French literature stuff. But the one book that I would say like I really liked, that is more like a nonfiction one, is Thinking Fast and Slow. I think it's Dan Kahneman, I think. So that's the one I would recommend. Like, super insightful book on like how people think. And something that was written before Gen AI, but is extremely interesting as well now as we think about like type 1 and type 2 thinking, and how this translates into like how LLMs think. And so yeah, highly recommend that.
Well, Phil, thanks a lot. It was great to have you on the show. Have a great day in Paris, and yeah, hope to catch up very soon.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for inviting me. Take care. Bye.